Hello guys, in today's video we are going to be going ahead and creating an Iman Gadzhi thumbnail. So if you're interested, let's get started. Okay guys, so let's just start off by creating a new document. So we're going to keep it to the standard YouTube thumbnail sizes. So 1920 by 1080p. We're going to keep the resolution to 300, keep it to 16-bit, RGB color, and keep all the other options the same, and click create. So right here guys, I have this image of Iman Gadzhi, and so I'm just going to take him into this document we've just created, and the first step is obviously going to be to cut out the subject. Now there are two ways that you can cut out the subject. You can either use the pen tool or you can use the quick selection tool. Now there are pros and cons to both, but for me, personal preference, I like to use the pen tool because it gives you sharp cutouts. So I'm going to go ahead and use the pen tool to cut out this image. So here we have our cutout of Iman Gadzhi. Now it's important to note that if you are following along with this tutorial, you do not need to use this Iman Gadzhi image or any Iman Gadzhi image in fact. All you need to do is go ahead and use an image which has the same sort of pose as the one we have right now. So here guys, I have this black background image and I'm just going to bring this into my document. I found this image on FreePic. It's a free website where you can find a lot of free resources, free pictures that you can use. So I'll just link that in the description down below as well for you guys. Okay, so the first step is to bring the subject layer to the front. And what we are going to do with the background is we are going to adjust it so that it fits the screen and everything is just black like so. We are also going to click on the subject, which is Iman Gadzhi. We're going to right click, create smart object, and we are going to resize this image to fit on screen better. Now what we will also be doing is going ahead and creating a little table right here so it looks as if his elbows are on the table. So something like this should be fine. So we're going to press enter, and what we are now going to do is add in an image of a table. So in this tab right here, I have an image of a table saved, and I found this image again on FreePic. And what we are now going to do is drag that into the document, and we are going to go ahead and first remove the white background from this image. So we are going to press Ctrl T to transform, and we are going to resize this to fit on the screen like so. And then we will use the magic wand tool to remove the white. So select it and go ahead and press backspace, and you will go ahead and delete the white. Now with this table right here, we are going to expand it to fit on the screen, because as you can see right now, this doesn't look like it would actually match with this image. So we're going to go ahead and press Command or Control T, and we are going to expand this image so that the corners are not visible. So we're going to keep expanding like this. And on this side here, we're going to keep expanding until you just have this image of the table without any corners being visible. We are now going to bring this layer underneath the subject so that it gives the illusion of the elbows being on the table, like so. Now I can see if we zoom in that the table has a little bit of these little weird edges. So I'm just going to quickly get rid of that. So what we will do is go to the marquee tool, and I'm just going to go over it like that, just touch in the edge and then press delete, and that should solve the problem. As you can see, there's no longer any rough edges. So I'm now going to go ahead and quickly add a couple of adjustments to the table. So we are going to click on the table layer, and we are going to go ahead and create a smart object. So right click, create a smart object, and we will go on filter, camera raw filter, and we will increase the texture, and we'll go ahead and increase the clarity. We can also go to light and increase the contrast of the image like so. Now when we press OK, We can now see that there's a little bit more texture added to the table, just to make it pop a little bit more. Now what we are now going to go ahead and do is go ahead and create a hue and saturation adjustment layer, so hue and saturation, and we are going to right click, create clipping mask, and we are going to desaturate the table and make it grey. Something like this should be fine, and we are going to decrease the lightness values of it as well to about 65. The next step will be to add shadows under the elbows in order to achieve a realistic effect. As you can see right now, it doesn't look like the table is actually within the image, and so by adding shadows it just gives a level of realism. Let's make a new layer, and what we will do is use the brush tool now to add some shadows under the elbows. So we're going to change the brush settings first, so click on this little arrow here, and we are going to change the shape of the brush to more of an oval shape. This allows you to draw better shadows in a more accurate manner. And we are also going to keep the softness to 0 because we want it to be a soft brush, and we are going to press enter, and we will now zoom in under the elbows and we will start painting in. Now you want to make sure that your flow is set to 10, and we will paint in slowly under the elbows. Now again, make sure that the layer is underneath Iman Gadzhi so that it doesn't show on top, and start painting in these shadows underneath like so. Now near contact of where the elbow is where the shadows will be the darkest, and as you branch out they should be a little bit lighter. So we're just going to lightly tap with the mouse the further we get away from the actual point of contact, because the shadows will be the darkest near the elbow contact on the table. Like so. Now what we will do is we will zoom out just to have an analysis of what we are doing, and we can see that the shadows here are a little bit too dark. So I'm going to use the eraser tool, press E for the shortcut, and we will keep the flow to 10, and we will just slowly tap over the shadow to remove it from where we don't want it to be. So that looks pretty good like that. So we will do the same for the other elbow, so zoom in again, and we will do the exact same thing. So we're going to start painting a strong shadow near the point of contact, like so. And then we're going to sort of just, as we branch out, lightly tap with the mouse in order to get a fainter version of the shadow. That looks good. Then I'm just going to quickly go back with the eraser, and we are going to just lightly tap where we don't like the shadows to be. Just paint a little bit more here. I could spend hours doing this, guys, but you know, just for the sake of the tutorial, I'm just trying to speed this up a little bit. And then with the eraser, remove a bit more shadows. So now when we zoom out, you can see that the shadows are added to the table. And so I've just added a little bit more shadow here because, you know, I'm very nitpicky with this stuff. Can't help it, guys. So keep in mind, guys, that you can adjust the strength of this shadow right here. So I'm just going to relabel this shadow, and you can adjust the opacity in order to decrease the strength if you so please. So let's just go ahead and decrease the opacity to about 85, and that should do the trick. So the next step, guys, will be to add some color to the image. As you can see with this cutout, I already have some sort of rim lights that were from the original image, which show that this area of the screen was red and this area of the screen was sort of a purplish blue. So what we are going to do is we're going to add in the ambient light so that it matches with the image. So let's create a new layer. And we will use the brush tool to paint in the left side of the image with the red color that we see on Iman Gadzhi. So what we can do is we can click on this color picker tool here and click on this red, and we can sort of take it up to a more reddish tone because that's quite pink. So something like this should be fine. Then we can zoom out, and with the brush tool selected, we can just paint in like so, only on the left side of the image. We can then go to the blending mode and change it to color like this. To create the blue section, we can take this layer and we can duplicate it. So right click, duplicate layer, click OK, and then we can press Command or Control T to transform, right click, flip horizontal, and then we can just sort of drag it to the edge of the screen like so. And in order to change the color of this red to a blue, we can go on adjustment layers, hue and saturation, and right click, create a clipping mask. And from here we can just adjust the color to what we want. So I'm just going to click on colorize first, and I'm going to go ahead now and change the color to something which is more reminiscent of the rim light on his jumper. So let's just zoom in so we can have a better look. Increase the saturation, maybe increase the brightness. That should do for now. So now I'm going to focus on adding in some rim lights. Now there are already some rim lights on this image. As you can see, there's some red lines right here and some blue outlines. Now you might be thinking, well, if I didn't have an image with these lights, how would I be able to recreate this sort of effect? So what I am about to show you right now is how you can manually draw in your own rim lights, irrespective of whether or not you have them already on your image. Now you can see right here, this side of the screen is red, and so this rim light is corresponding to the light being shone on the subject right here. And the exact same thing can be said for the other side. So on the blue side, there's light being shone on the subject, and that's causing the rim lights you can see here. Now I'm going to show you how to recreate this effect yourself. So what we will do is we will create a new layer, and we will create a solid color layer on top of Iman Gadzhi, like so. And we are just going to keep the same red color that we were using when we were painting in the red shadows on the side. So we are going to press OK, and we are going to right click and create a clipping mask, and this is going to clip that red color to the subject. We will go to the blend modes, and we will change the blend mode to screen. And then what we will do is we will invert the mask like so, and we will start to paint in the rim lights on the image. So we're going to zoom in a little bit, and we're going to use the brush tool, have the flow set to 60. So I'm going to put it back to where it was, 60. And we are going to paint in, making sure that we're just sort of painting in from the edges. Make sure your clipping mask is onto the image, otherwise it will be all over the place. So just paint in. So let's zoom out, and you can see that there are some rim lights that have now been drawn. Now, because I have this image with rim lights already on it, there's no real point of me going ahead and doing this. But if you have an image which is blank and doesn't have any sort of red and blue lighting already lit on it, you will have to go ahead and do that technique I just showed you right there. Let's now add a drop shadow. So double click on Iman Gadzhi, and we are going to click on drop shadow, and we will adjust the opacity of the drop shadow. So we're going to keep the size relatively small, and you want to make sure that the distance is set to 0, because you want the shadow to be surrounding the subject. You don't want the shadow to be at a weird angle like somewhere like here. So let's just keep the distance to 0, and that should be fine. So we're going to press OK, and now we can just toggle between before and after, and you can see it's subtle, but it definitely makes a difference, and it separates Iman Gadzhi from the actual background. As you can see, guys, the thumbnail is starting to come together. Now all that's left for us to do is add text behind the subject. So let us go ahead and do that. Now the font we will be using is called Proxima Nova, and I will be typing in $100,000 per month, and that will be placed behind Iman Gadzhi. Now the reason for this is, if you look at Iman Gadzhi's thumbnails, you will see that one of the most popular style of thumbnails he does is where he will have a number inserted either next to him or behind him with the inner glow effect on that text, and it's really attractive and it catches the eyes of viewers. And so we are going to try and emulate that sort of style. So I'm going to set the font to Proxima Nova. I have it saved here, and I'm going to type in $100,000. Like so, and we are going to change the thickness. So there's different styles of the font, so we will change it to bold italic, and this one I like the most. So we will change the color to white, and we will press Command or Control T in order to transform, and we are going to resize this to fit the screen much better than it is right now. So something like this should be fine, and we are going to place this text layer behind Iman Gadzhi so that it's obviously behind him. We will now add a gradient to this text. So we will double click on the layer, and we will click Gradient Overlay, and we are going to change the gradient to a grey to white color. So grey will be at the bottom and white will be at the top, like so. So something like this should be fine. Let's just drag this slider a little bit more like this so that the greys are showing a little bit more in the text, and we will click OK. Then what we will do from here is we will go to inner glow, and we will just add the settings as follows. So 100% opacity, and we will keep the size to 24 like so. And as you can see, we are now emulating Iman Gadzhi's text style where there's a bit of glow inside the text. Now let's add in the words per month. Now before that, let's just quickly add in a slash like so, press escape, and then we will again type somewhere else and type in per month. So P, and then we're going to do lowercase e and r like that. We can go ahead and take this text layer here, and we are going to hold Alt or Option, and we are just going to duplicate that like so, and we will change the text to per month, so month. This should be fine. And we are going to now click on both layers, and we are going to press Command or Control T to resize both so that they scale proportionately. We will then align it to make sure that it's aligned with the $100,000, and what we can do is we can use a ruler to just double check and make sure that it's aligned. So make sure that the rulers are visible. Press enter, and we can see that it's pretty much aligned. And we can just bring the per down a little bit like so. Now let's add this text effect to the per month. So we will right click on our text effect, right click on copy layer style, and we will go ahead and paste that to these two layers. So right click on per, and you can go and press paste layer style, and you can do the same for this one. So paste layer style. Now the reason why, if you zoom in, you can see that there hasn't been any change is probably because the inner glow is really high. So let's just go to the inner glow of both of them, and we are just going to decrease the size like so, and you can see that the effect is starting to show again. We keep it to 5, and we'll do the same for this one, inner glow, and keep the size to 5 like so, and click OK, and let's just hide our guide. So now let's add a little drop shadow to our text, and what I'm going to do is I am going to group all the text together. So just highlight all the text layers like so, and we are just going to create a group. So Command or Control G, and we will now make the adjustments all to one layer. So we will double click on the group, and we will go to and click drop shadow, and we are just going to add a little drop shadow to the text. So let's just work on it like this, just increase the size so I can see what's going on. Increase the opacity to something like this. Again, it should be subtle, but it should be there. And if we zoom in, or zoom out rather, we can now see that there has been an effect which sort of separates it from the background. Now if you look closely at Iman Gadzhi's thumbnails, you will also see that he adds in a little Gaussian blur on the text, and the reason for that is to just keep this focus on Iman Gadzhi, which is the main subject. When the text is blurred, naturally your eyes will gravitate towards the main subject, and then you will go ahead and look at the background element after that. So it's just thumbnail psychology 101 on getting you to focus first on Iman Gadzhi, which is the main focal point of the thumbnail. Obviously it's Iman Gadzhi, it's his personal brand. He's trying to get you to focus on him first before looking at what the video is about, which is obviously something to do with money. Now let's add a Gaussian blur to the text. So we are going to right click on the group, and we are going to create a smart object. So convert to smart object, and we're going to go on filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. Now we're going to set the blur to 1.5 pixels like so. And obviously this is personal preference. You don't even need to use a blur, but it's personal preference here. I would like to go ahead and use blur, so we're going to click OK. And we are pretty much done now. All that's left for us to do is go ahead and add a camera raw filter to this and add some final adjustments before we are finally done. So now we are going to create a new layer, and we are going to merge all layers onto one layer. So we are going to press Command, Option, Shift and E, and that's going to get all the layers that we have right here onto one final layer, like so. Now with the layer highlighted, we are going to go to Filter and Convert for Smart Filters, and then click OK, and then we will go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and we are going to now make some final adjustments. Let's make some final adjustments, so click on Light, and we are going to really bump up the exposure just to make it pop a little bit more. So we're going to keep it to 0.50, increase the contrast. And again, with these sliders, you're really just toggling about with them until you get a good desired result. So I'm just going to toggle with these until I am happy. So increasing the highlights a little bit, decreasing the shadows a little bit, increasing the whites a little bit, and decreasing the blacks a little bit. So we're just increasing the contrast of the overall image. And then we will go into color, and we will just increase the vibrance slightly to maybe 2, increase the saturation a little bit, and go ahead and go to detail and increase the sharpening like so. We'll keep it to about 25, and we will finally go to effects, increase some texture, increase some clarity like so, and that's pretty much all I'm going to do. So I'm going to press OK. So there we have it, guys, a thumbnail designed like Iman Gadzhi. Now again, just remember that you can replace this subject with any image of your own, and you can go ahead and follow the steps outlined in order to achieve the exact same result. So if you've made it this far, I just want to thank you for watching this video, and I will be making a lot more tutorials like this. So if you're interested, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.